Aldo, can you use Caapi to do a dieta on its own?
Yes, very much so. It's almost advisable, and it's a personal advice because we all have our own ideas, but to help you open up to this way of thinking, to also open up to the plans that are coming, the Caapi is a very, very good first introduction to this because it helps you to open up to all this information. It helps you to not be so stuck in that pattern you have created for yourself. So it's a very strong dieta to start with. Be aware that because the Caapi opens up, it opens up everything. And there's certain molecules biochemically saying which are stronger interacting, but spiritually it opens up everything. The things to be aware of is that your coffee will be a lot stronger. Maybe leave it or drink a lot less, especially when you're on medication. They can have a strong interaction, especially psychopharmaca. Then you better not experiment with Caapi and the psychopharmaca. Other things can become intenser. Maybe people you normally are very able to hang out with certain have a whole different effect. And there's nothing wrong with giving yourself some space to reinvent a certain part of you, because everything around you tries to keep you also, not consciously, but they will keep you in this old pattern. And it can be very hard to say to certain people or behaviors to say, hey, I leave this for a little while, but it's very advisable to get the most out of it. And your real friends, they will really respect that. And they will see when you return, spiritually return, maybe you're not physically gone, many will see, hey, wow, you went through something, and it interests them, and they respect that. And instead of you going back in the old pattern, you might even lift some with you to a new certain insight and reality.
Can you use the plant in various ways during the dieta, such as a deduct or an extract, or is it best to use one type of preparation?
Well, there are certain preparations that are known that work, like the traditional ways of making a decoction, the extract we have made, but feel very free that when you're in this process, whatever comes, feel free to experiment with that. Be safe, of course. Know that you don't make a huge dose and then start taking the wrong things. Although it's all pretty safe, you know what I mean. But let the plant also guide you, because that's really where the magic happens. I cannot share, and the shaman cannot share, and Google cannot share. This is a unique relationship with you and the plant. And that's when unique things come. Maybe it tells you, hey, I just want to be a spray and spray it around. That's for you enough. Maybe you're sensitive or you react better in that way.
How do you suggest we should start?
Start very, very low. Slowly build it up. The term microdosing is a popular one, a new one, but it's actually not so new at all. We microdose almost every herb. Besides when we want a strong experience, like the ayahuasca experience, for example, all herbal medicine we take little bits of during the day. If we want to have a high or a certain effect, we take more, but that's not what we're actually looking for in this situation. We can look for it in other situations, but not what I'm trying to explain here. When you take too much, the body can kind of balance itself out the other way, because the body always wants to create a balance. It's genius in doing that. It keeps the pH there, the temperature, everything exactly within certain parameters. If it wouldn't, it would die. And if you take all the time a high dose, maybe for a time it can be interesting as an experiment to learn, definitely, but your body will kind of balance it out. Like if you drink a lot of coffee, at a certain point you need it to be somewhere. But if you slightly give a little bit, slightly, all the time and see how you feel, it's easier for the body to incorporate this new being. And then you can slowly take a bit more and see how it feels for you.
Thank you for that answer, Aldo. Let's go with Philip. I think you have a question.
Why would I choose using an extract instead of drinking the plant boiled as they do in the tribes or as the grandmothers do?
This is mostly ease and safety, because if you want to boil it, this is fantastic, feel free. But there's a certain way to prepare the Caapi. You cannot just make a tea. You can, but it would be a bit of shame of product because just a small part of the actives will be in. You certainly need to boil it for quite a long time, several hours, to have an efficient extraction in your water. And then you have to take the right dose. You know, how much did you put in and how much is there? And also that you can feel yourself. And if you have the time, please feel free to experiment like that. It can be a great addition to have this connection. If you're really using it to medicinally on yourself, and you are in a reality like most people are, it's my work to make extracts, but besides my work, I would not have time to make more extracts, so to say. I could not boil Caapi a few hours before going to work and do that daily because it will get old. Maybe it keeps a few days in the fridge. If you have a lot of time and you feel like experimenting and you're interested, I would really encourage you actually to do that because you learn so much from this process. But if you're like most people, it's just an ease that you know all drops are the same. You get used to it. Not one cup is twice as strong as the day before. And you can more easily find your dose which suits you. Take it when you need it. Bring it with you in your pocket. And know that it's done right. That it's the right balance of things. So that's a part of our work and translation to make it available to most people that do not have the knowledge, time, or tools. You need a big pan too, no, and everything to make it. So that would be
Great question, Philip, and lovely answer, Aldo. But for that I'm new to this, how would you suggest to keep track of this experimenting? Maybe a journal?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Personally, I would not document because, especially in such a session, the whole idea is to get out of our natural behavior, trying to understand and grasp it and understand with the intellect. And the intellect is just a very small part of our whole experience. And the whole reason I'm saying this is to try to feel and experience with the whole thing. That's why the English call it learning by heart. It really comes in your heart instead of your brain. That's why the Druids never wrote anything down. Learning by heart stems from the Druid culture. It was forbidden to write down because you wouldn't learn properly. Well, now it's not forbidden. Of course, nothing is forbidden. It's just an advice. If you want to write down, try to do it at the end when you feel you've reached a certain point. Because in the process, if you try to grasp it, you tend to hang on to ideas and things, or be annoyed or overexcited, want to share it, want to analyze it. And try not to analyze it all. Try just to be with it and sense it and let it flow. The flow is very important. Don't grasp it. And in the end, you have to experience, maybe write down what happened in these crazy dieta you took.
Yeah. But if you're cooking yourself, then maybe it's wise to follow the steps and write down.
Technicalities of cooking, if it's about that, yes, then
it's very wise. I think the question was about indeed what you just explained. So let me ask you a few more questions, and then maybe you can go back onto topic. But everything is on topic anyway.
Thank you so much, Aldo and Philip, for this insight on the plants. I have another question. How would you consider using microdosing? Maybe daily, maybe weekly?
And can you share some of the cool insights and process you had during those dietas? Also, have you found some plants from our area that may have the same melody as plants from the jungle? And he also says, thank you, this is great. So there's a compliment for you as well, but also a lot of questions.
Very good. Questions are the compliments, but I like the compliment. Thank you. It is a very nice question because it's very close to my feeling and the reason I came to Europe also, to rediscover what we have here in the way and the techniques I learned in the jungle. And there's a lot of depth in things here too. I like your word melody because it's exactly what it is. It is a melody. A plant has a melody which resonates with our song. Our song can be sad, can be exciting, it can be intense, that makes a song interesting. But there are things, there are notes which just make our song out of tune. And by then adding the melody of a plant, it can help us tune in. Well, there are none exactly the same. Every melody is kind of unique. But as, so to say, all music from the entire world sounds completely different, Indian or rock music or Irish music or Icaros, the more adept you get in this style of music, the closer you see they're all one. So they're all different, they all use the same chords, they use the same notes, so they are very one, but they have a bit different melodies. One difference, which is very clear, is if you compare jungle and Alps, it's just the lifestyle these plants have. Although the jungle is very loving and harmonious in its own way, it's also very intense. There's a lot of light, there's a lot of water, it's ideal for growing. And the plants work kind of strong. Ayahuasca, strong, no? Bang! Unyaragato, up, immune boost. They're very, very strong, and that makes them very suitable for many problems we have at these times. If you walk here in the Alps, if you walk in the jungle, you get a scratch, you get bitten, you get stung, you know, you sweat. It can be very uncomfortable, especially until you're a bit used to it. But it's kind of hostile in a certain way. It's loving, but it's also hostile. In the Alps, maybe there's a mosquito once, or a bee, or maybe a stinging nettle, but that's it. You know, it's very, very peaceful. So they all resonate on a bit lighter scale. They work a bit less direct and intense. So you either need to have done a lot of pre-work as a Westerner like me, degenerated city boy like me, clean a lot of stuff and open up more to the European ones. There are very strong European ones. It's not generalized, but averagely. But for example, if you ask about the Dieta experience, one of my favorite plants from this area is called in German the Waldmeister, which is called the master of the woods or the teacher of the forest, which of course is a very interesting name. And the ancients were very wise and they never gave names just like that. Let's call this plant the Waldmeister. Not very big. It's pretty small actually. The name is Gallium odoratum, or if you want to look it up and maybe see the picture. They grow in groups. They're very small. They make a little white flower. And when the sun goes down and it's the last light, still a tiny bit of light, but like the last bit, and you walk in the forest and you just see the stars because the light is almost gone. You see the stars coming. They shine at exactly the same intensity as the stars. So they look like the starry heaven in the forest. Just a short moment. And there's a lot of uses for this Waldmeister. We call it Lieve Vrouwen bedstro in Dutch. We gave it to the women that gave birth to help them sleep nice and the baby. We put it in the pillow. It has coumarins, it opens the veins. You can use it for migraine. You can use it for a lot of things. But nothing explains why it's called Waldmeister. Nothing comes even close to the name the ancients gave to it. I got very curious in opening up this plant, so I started dieting the Waldmeister. And it's still one of my favorite. One of the first I dieted here in Europe, and still one of my favorite. Now's the time for harvesting, by the way. So I tried, and I made tincture and I made tea, just like to form a question, to see what form does it like to be used in, what part, the root, the flower. And then after a long, long time, I found, no, the Waldmeister taught me in the Dieta, it enhances the dreams. So in the beginning, you just sleep nice. And if you keep the Dieta, your dreams become deeper and deeper and deeper. Then in the dream, I actually realized that this moment in the day when you see the stars above and below is a very magical moment, and this plant shines. It just gets all your attention. So I dreamt about that moment. And it became clear when I woke up and walked in the forest, it became clear that, hey, the plants are also going to sleep now. And this is the moment when it's at its power and it shows itself. So I probably have to pick it at this time. And I probably have to pick the flower, which makes it so attractive. So then I made a tincture from the flower at that moment. And I use a bit of the leaf. So you take one circle of the leaves with the flower, picked at that moment. So you have to pick quickly. Make a tincture of it. And that tincture then I now use, because I already dyed it with it, I used to, if I cannot sleep or I'm a bit confused about things, I love to take the Waldmeister and it shows me in the dream. It teaches in the dream. And there it's a very strong teacher. Many times you don't see it in the dream, but you wake up with a sentence. Wake up, dunk, that's in your head. You know, that's what I need to do, or what I want to do, or should do. But it works very differently. That's what I mean with the subtlety. It's much more subtle. You will not take it and get this high experience and see your trauma and puke it out. But what it can show you in the dream can be just as life-changing, just as powerful. It just works differently. And many of us are not open for it yet.
Yeah, it's beautiful that in English it translates, so Waldmeister is a German word, and the Waldmeister, it translates as master of the forest,
Yes.
master of the woods. So
Yes.
that's very interesting.